One.
Thank you very much for joining me. Today we have Jason Paul from Fairway Mortgage. Jason, I love that background you've got. I've got kind of a plain looking office, but that's going to be one of the best Zoom ones I've seen yet.
Yeah, just our company is embracing the Zoom, so they gave us some cool new backgrounds to play with.
Very nice. I'll have to work on mine. Listen, we're going to talk about the newest and latest thing today in the markets affecting mortgage rates, affecting real estate, affecting people in general. We've had, as of the last count, last Thursday, a total of 22 million people filing for unemployment in this country. That's a big number. We don't take that number lightly. It's a horrific number, honestly. And we've also got another thing that we don't see as often, I don't think, and that's we've got a little over 5.5 million people filing for forbearance on their mortgage loans. Jason, could you tell us a little bit about what forbearance means?
Yeah, so it's not a new term. It's not something new that the government just came out with to battle the COVID-19 problem that we're having. It's been around for a long time, and it's been a resource for people who are going through a hardship to delay payments. And so, but at the scale that we're seeing it right now and the way that it's being thrown around, there's just a lot of misinformation. And so basically what it does mean is it's going to delay your payments. It's not forgiving your payments. It's just pushing them out, basically.
I think that's an important distinction, right? Yeah. The difference between forgiveness and forbearance is large, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest misconception is people assume that the government is bailing them out and giving them this option to forgive those payments. And that's just not the truth.
So say you have to have, if you have to have a forbearance because you and your wife, you both lost your jobs, you've got zero income coming in, it's probably a logical move to do if you think you're going to get your job back. However, what happens when you go into forbearance? Typically, what does that look like in the normal situation? If it's not a forgiveness of the loan, then what's going to happen with those payments someday?
Yeah, great question. So our company is obviously in the lending industry. We're trying to help people make an informed decision. Right. And so it's really important that you understand before you go into something like this. And so I'm going to share on my screen here we call it the loss mitigation waterfall. And so basically what this allows you to see all of the different options of a forbearance plan. And so number one step would be if you find yourself in the position where you just cannot make your payments, you have no income coming in, maybe you got the stimulus check, but $1,200 is not going to do very much. You need to call your servicer. So that's the company on the top of your mortgage statement that you get each month. You need to call them and they will lay out which of these options is available for you. The government is allowing people to delay their payments up to 3 months and then continue delaying them all the way up to 1 full year.
Oh, wow.
What this waterfall kind of shows, though, is, again, this is not a forgiveness program. We are delaying these, for 90 to 180 days, possibly up to 360. And so, all of those past due payments are going to be due at the end of the forbearance period. And so kind of as we walk through this, you set up your plan, you can get reinstated, you can set up if you don't have the funds to do, repay everything right up front, then they're going to potentially put you on a repayment plan. And I say potentially because every servicer, they're going to tell you what you're eligible for. So none of these, this isn't one size fits all. They're going to tell you based on your situation what you qualify for. And that's why underneath each of these, say, borrowers' eligibility needs to be evaluated.
Okay.
So you may get one of these three options. You may get a repayment plan where you're going to, let's say you had a $1,500 mortgage. They may increase that to $2,000 a month in order to repay your loss or your past payments. They may ask you to pay a lump sum, which, for most people, if you're not having income over 3 months and, you're $1,500 a month, there's $4,500, you're probably not going to have the $4,500 now that you're going back to work. So, and people are very shocked by that one, especially because they think, again, well, I'll add this to the back of the loan. That's not necessarily the case, but that is number 5 there, the modification. So depending on your hardship, you may be able to modify the loan and I've heard of, and again, this is not a one size fits all, but I've heard of people maybe extending, their loan by the number of payments missed. I've heard of potentially putting a second mortgage or a second lien behind your current mortgage, um, for the amount that you're behind.
Hmm.
So there's a couple different scenarios that they could do there, but it's complicated. And so that's why, if any of my clients that are going through this, we're definitely talking about it. It's not a great option. All three of these are not great options to be
Okay.
in. And so unless you absolutely have to, it's probably not the best for your family, but it is available, and you do need to talk to your servicer if you want to explore that path.
Jason, I think you make a really interesting point that this isn't as easy as like, hey, I don't have any mortgage payments for a while. It's a dire situation. It should be the last resort, I guess, for a lot of people. If there's a way we
Yeah,
can make this payment, you don't want to take this up front if you don't have to. This shouldn't
right.
be an excuse too. If hey, say your spouse got laid off, but I'm still working, we can still make the payments because we have savings. You
Hmm.
absolutely, in most cases, should not take advantage of a program like this because it's going to bite you.
Right. I completely agree with you.
Okay,
And
well,
most people, once they find out these, they're not actually doing it. Um,
we've
so
got
you
five
know,
and a half million people that are, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. So, well,
yeah,
I
and
just,
my guess is a lot of those people are in like the service industry, so they have zero income coming
right,
in. So those are the people that it does make sense for them to do it. And
right,
yes, is it going to put them in a hard spot down the road? Potentially, but the good part about the forbearance is you're not going to get foreclosed on. So
okay,
your payments aren't going behind. They're not going to start trying to start the foreclosure process, and technically they can't do that right now.
correct.
And so that's an important thing. And another reason why people keep asking, is this 2008 all over again, where we had the slew of foreclosures? It's not, because we have programs like this that the government's implementing to make sure that doesn't happen.
I
And
think
so
it's safe to
that's
say
super
that
important.
I think it's safe to say the government learned the last time around, right? I mean, they're working, when they came up with this plan, it was well thought out for the most dire situations, but they don't want to create a 2008 all over again in a cascading real estate market.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's not good for anybody. And the biggest, obviously the government wants to boost the economy because then they get more tax dollars. And so this will help our economy bounce back as quickly as possible.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate the explanation. Did we leave anything out on that?
No, I mean,
Okay.
you can definitely go a lot deeper dive into it, but everybody's situation is different. So they really need to talk to a servicer. This is not all encompassing.
I agree. And so you want to say a quick word about rates at all right now, kind of what you're expecting or what you're seeing right now with what's going on in the world?
Yeah, rates are still super low. And basically, not to go too far into it, but the Fed is buying a lot of mortgage-backed securities, and that's holding bond rates very steady. And so lenders such as ourselves, we're still working through that first wave of refinances, and we have a lot of clients ready for the next wave. And so right now we're just working on getting clients ready for when rates do drop to their goal level, and then we'll be able to move them in. But on the
Okay.
purchase side, yeah, rates are fantastic. For most clients, they're for most they're about 1% lower than we were springtime last year, which is helping
Okay.
them afford more house, or the same amount of house they were looking at last year for a lot less payment. So it's a
Well,
great time.
we were looking at some numbers the other day, and I'm glad you mentioned last spring, just to give people a sense of what the real estate market looks like right now. There's some parts of the country where if you make a comparison to their activity rates that were a year ago, they're down 50, 60%. Our market right now in Eastern Washington, we're about 85% where we were last year. And that
Mhm.
seems to me in the last few days to only be creeping up as a result of lower interest rates. So if you have a question about forbearance, if you have a question about mortgages or the market in general, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with Jason. He's got a great set of statistics and some great efforts behind him at Fairway Mortgage. They've created a tremendous number of platforms for us to be able to get educated on this as realtors. I trust what they have to say. They bring in some industry experts that used to run the FHA. And so, these people know exactly what they're talking about. So it's been a tremendous education for me as an agent that I can in turn pass on to my clients. So Jason, I want to thank you again for coming today and explaining this complicated topic. And I just really appreciate you giving us that excellent education.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm happy to answer any questions for anybody, and yeah, wish you stay healthy, my friend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.